Alright, we're back at last. It's been a month, almost two, since I made a video like this and actually did a video rather than making an update video about videos that were coming that never did. But we're back. Silent Hill. Silent Hill is a big deal in the survival horror genre as a whole, especially lately, over the past 5 years lately, at least 5 years. And it's just rocketed up again with the rumours and PT and abandoned and all this stuff that's been happening. Everyone wants a new game. Everyone loves these games to a point. We'll get to that in the future. But I thought we'd go over them all. This video will be kind of an introduction to the series and the kind of atmosphere, story, stuff like that for people who've never played it maybe, or never really been interested before. I'd imagine most of you who follow the channel love Resident Evil, so this is essentially the same kind of thing. Essentially the same thing. So this video will be an introduction to the series as a whole, and then across the next 1 or 2 weeks we'll go through the main games, as in the first 4, in a bit more depth. I might continue on after 4 if people are interested in the other ones. I know that after 4 it kind of took a decline, but 1 to 4 guaranteed. So, without further ado, let's talk about Silent Hill. Okay, so first and foremost, the town of Silent Hill. There's 2 kind of stories around it. I mean, one of them is heavily around the movies. There is 2 movies. I have not seen the second one. I saw the first one way back a few times. It's genuinely okay. It's not the best thing ever, but it's pretty good in terms of video game movies. Speaking of, if anyone actually has seen the Resident Evil film, I haven't, so no spoilers. But I've heard it's pretty bad, so I'll see it eventually. I just haven't been able to because I've been busy, and it's already leaving the cinema after like 2 weeks, so that's great. Anyway. 2 movies, and the story of the town from the movies is it is like a mining town, and there was a lot of landfill, a lot of waste in the town, so people were kind of ordered to burn it down. Not the town, the landfill, like all the waste. And what that did was kind of seep through under the town where there was a coal mine, and it set on fire, and then it basically burnt the whole place down. Mostly abandoned. People still kind of linger around and go to the church there and hope that the fire eventually stops, but it's still going. And that's kind of the idea they go with in the movies for the most part. But in the games, which is a lot more interesting in terms of the town itself, it's like a sentient town. There's like 3 realms in this town. There's the normal one, which people see day to day, and there's nothing wrong with it. The fog world, which is honestly, as you can see from the gameplay of Silent Hill 2 in the background, probably where you're mostly going to be when you play the games. It's like a underlayer of the overworld, and it's where the monsters are, and the town's abandoned, and everything's all over the place. And then there's the other world, I think it's called, which is essentially the Hell dimension, like the very worst one, and that's very prominent, more so in Silent Hill 3, but again, we'll get to that at a certain point. And I definitely prefer that to just the town burnt down idea from the film. Another thing about the town in the games is, again, it's a sentient town, and it draws people in to it in its own ways. Again, which will be mentioned briefly when we go over the kind of brief stories for each of the games, and you'll see what I mean when we get there. As for actual mainstream entries in the series, the mainline entries, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then I believe it's Silent Hill Origins, which is a prequel to the first game. Then it's Homecoming, maybe. I don't know. There's a few. And then there's spin-offs, which are, I don't really know what they are. I've kind of looked up what they were, but not really anything. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, Origins, Homecoming, I think, and Shattered Memories, I think that's one as well. In between Origins and Homecoming, or maybe after Homecoming, I don't know. But there's a few. Not Resident Evil levels of many games, but there's a few. And again, most people do say after 4, it does kind of decrease in quality. Not that the later games are bad. Apparently a lot of people do like Homecoming, but they did just kind of lower the quality of them a little bit. Apparently, I haven't played any after 4, so I couldn't tell you, but that's what I've heard. Okay, let's do the kind of basic story of each game. There's going to be the simplest terms possible, not to spoil anything. Obviously, when we go into the focused videos, where it's like I'm looking at 1, 2, 3 and 4 as a video separately, individually, obviously kind of explain the story a bit better, and there will be spoilers. So obviously if you've played it, you can watch it. If you haven't and you want to play it, don't watch it because spoilers. But we'll go over the brief kind of main story in its simplest form right now for each game. So Silent Hill 1, you play as Harry Mason, I think that's his last name, and you are basically going to the town to find your daughter, who is there, missing. I don't know if she ran away from him or if she just ends up there. I don't actually remember what it is, but you are essentially looking for your daughter there, and things happen. Of course, no spoilers until the video, of course, but things happen. Silent Hill 2, probably the most interesting of the story for me, or maybe second. It's kind of joint with this and 4, but Silent Hill 2 you play as James Sunderland. Everyone knows who that is. And he gets a letter from his wife, who is dead, saying that she's waiting for him in the town in a special place. I believe it's a hotel room, I think. And he goes there to find her, even though he's clearly aware that she's dead. Honestly, that part of the story alone, and that's obviously on its bare bones basics, I kind of feel like Resident Evil 7 was inspired by it. Like, James gets a letter from his wife to come find her in a place he's never been to, out of nowhere. Ethan gets an email from Mia saying she's in the house and go and get her. He's never been there before, or hasn't heard from her in years. Same kind of thing. But clearly inspired, so it's fun. Silent Hill 3 you play as Heather, and Silent Hill, I will kind of add this context a little bit. It's not really a spoiler out of context, but Silent Hill 3 is a direct sequel to 1. So 1, 2 is separate, and then 3 is like a continuation of 1. And you play as Cheryl, who is trying to get back home to her dad, but ends up like bouncing between the realms on the way there. She keeps having these recurring dreams, and it all kind of adds up, and there's a big twist, and it's pretty cool. Definitely a good fan of the story in 3. I haven't played it much, I think it's my least played, but I think I played it once and kind of really enjoyed it, so it's definitely a good one to play. And then Silent Hill 4, The Room is what it's called. That makes sense when you hear the story. You play as Henry something, and he lives in an apartment block, and he keeps having these like recurring nightmares, and then suddenly one time he wakes up and he's locked in his apartment and he can't get out, and weird things are happening in the complex that he lives in, like holes in his walls where he can go through to different dimensions, and weird shit happens, and again it's all explained, and I really like 4. I do like 4. People didn't really enjoy it that much because it doesn't have much of a relation to the town, in a sense of you're not actually there, but I like it. I like it a lot. As for the rest, I'm not sure on the story, really, to be honest. I think Origins is obviously its prequel to the first game, and I don't really remember what happens there. Homecoming, again, I have no idea. And then Shattered Memories, again, not a clue. I'm sure I'll figure it out eventually, and if there's demand for a video on those games, I'll obviously look it up and be informed, but I don't know much about them, so I'm sorry. And then, obviously, we'll go over the gameplay like we do in these kind of videos. It's a survival horror game. A very good survival horror game. You know, way back in the day of Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, you know, Silent Hill 1, 2, 3. Survival horror games were a bit more involved. I'm not saying they're different now, but if you look at kind of Resident Evil 7, for example, that has a more classic feel to this old survival horror style, and what that means basically is there's a lot of inventory management, a lot. You have to kind of explore everything. There is limited ammo, and very tanky enemies. Healing is limited. Saving is randomly scattered across the areas. You have to find a save point. You have to find that save point. The puzzles and remembering where things are is a bit more involved as well, because you have to actually remember this stuff, because you can't just, like, well, especially back in the day, you can't just save a video clip of where something was or a screenshot and then go to it. Like, it couldn't be done. So there's a lot more kind of thinking on your part about where things are and what things do and where things go and stuff like that. And I love that. I love that in games. Village being one of my favourite games ever. It didn't really have that, but we all know Resident Evil Village is basically Resident Evil 4. Like, it's the same thing. But either way, survival horror is top tier. It's the original Silent Hill games, as in 1, 2, 3. Maybe 1 and 2 actually. And then Resident Evil 1, 2, 3 as well. And they're the kings. They sit above everything else that comes in the genre. There is Resident Evil, Silent Hill, and everything else. And that's just how it is. So these are like the dominant ones. But there you have it. That has been this kind of brief introduction to Silent Hill. If again, people haven't played it before or heard of it, I'm imagining again most of you have heard of them at least. But we've kind of just gone into a little detail on what they are, story-wise, how they play. Obviously, again, very similar to Resident Evil. And we're going to go over each one individually over the next 2 weeks, starting with 2, and then 1, and then 3, and then 4. Just because 2 is like the big one. Like 2 is the one everyone loves. And 1, and 3, and 4. People like them, but 2 is like the most popular, I think, out of them all. So we'll go over 2 first, then 1, 3, and 4. And if people want to see, Shattered Memories or Homecoming or Origins, I can have a look at those too, and maybe even the movie. That would be fun. That would be fun to do. First time ever doing like a movie thing on the channel would be fun to do. I've been thinking about doing that for a while with the Resident Evil film, but I haven't been able to watch it, so I couldn't do it. So maybe that will be the first one. Who knows? But I am back doing videos again. Not every day. I'll try to at least post once a day, but it's not a guarantee, especially at the minute. But there is more coming out now over the next foreseeable future. There'll be more than 1 video a month. So thank you all for waiting around and bearing with me. But I'm actually back now, so looking forward to it. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe for more Silent Hill, I guess, for now. And then of course other survival horror and Resident Evil. And I'll catch you all in the next video.